Suddenly, there was a burst of light, and a strip of tape was sent rippling across the black of space.
Over centuries and millennia, life forms spanning the universe created a tradition of sharing the wealth of their creative influence by burning tracks onto the cassette tape.
Now, the tape has landed on planet Earth.
And each episode, we sit down with artists from across the new music scene to add to it.
During the show, they add 4 tracks that have greatly influenced them across their life, and one of their own.
My name's Matt Roberts. I'm a composer, an arranger, an orchestrator, a conductor, and a trumpet player.
After studying at Leeds Conservatoire and Trinity, Laban, Matt Roberts soared into the British jazz scene, leading his own big band at Ronnie Scott's and the London Jazz Festival.
Alongside his work in jazz, Matt is one of the country's leading arrangers and orchestrators, working with artists such as Jorja Smith, SAULT, Cleo Sol, Ezra Collective, Mark Ronson, and many more, whilst also being one of London's most versatile conductors.
He has also released his own music under his duo with Liselotte Östblom, BOREAL SUN, described as rich, captivating, and undeniably contemporary.
So without further ado, welcome to the first episode of the Eternal Mixtape. But yeah, we'll just get started, I think.
Yeah.
So our first track, we sent you questions that we were hoping to get answers for, that you would want to put on the Eternal Mixtape that people can look back on. And our first question was about growing up and in your childhood years, what track influenced you and that you can still see fingerprints of in your work today?
100%, yeah. So I was lucky enough to grow up in the northeast of England in a beautiful town called Darlington, a great place, which is in the kind of heart of the northern brass band world, which I'm not sure if your listeners will know, but in Britain, in the north in particular, there's this great tradition of brass bands, which links back to like the coal mining industry. Britain used to produce its own coal. The workers were really organised. We're used to like workers when they organise now, it's very defensive. So they're about to cut pensions. Okay, we go on strike. They're about to fire and rehire on bad contracts. Okay, people will like organise and resist. But these workers were so organised that they were actually trying to think about how to improve their conditions. Okay, we're doing all right, but can things get better? And one of the things they were really interested in was like leisure time. How do they want their leisure time to be spent? They don't just, let me get this right, they don't just live to work, they work to live. And what does that life outside of work look like? And so they started thinking, maybe we want to learn how to paint. Maybe we want to learn how to appreciate and write our own poetry. Maybe we want to learn music. And for various reasons, it was the kind of brass band thing really took off. If you think about it, these are people who were doing quite hard manual labor, literally picking up lumps of coal all day. So the kind of precision required to play a violin or a guitar or something like that is maybe a bit challenging, whereas like a big chunky brass instrument with 3 clunky valves is maybe a bit more suitable. And so you can imagine one coal mine getting their own brass band, and then the mine next door down the village, down the road, is like, God, that looks like a bit of fun. We want to get into that. And then the next village and the next village, these turn into these kind of meets where they would all play for each other and get drunk. And these meets turn into competitions. And then this develops into this incredibly elaborate pyramid league system, like we have in football with the Champions League and the Premier League and the Championship and League One, League Two. You have that in brass bands. So you have the Championship section, the first section, the second section, the third section, and bands get promoted and relegated based on how they perform in competitions that year, which is incredible, really. And these are like, even now, so now that the mines are long shut down, that happened when I was a young child, but the brass bands remain as a vestige of this workers' movement. And it's incredible. But it's still, what I love about it is it's still just kind of normal working people doing these things. So, people are, driving lorries and fitting kitchens and working in call centers and working as nurses. And then, a couple of times a week, they're going to play brass bands, like really challenging brass band music, and playing at a ridiculously high level. So anyhow, that was the kind of scene I grew up around. Darlington itself was not a pit town, but it was surrounded by pit villages in Durham and in North Yorkshire. So there was a lot of ex-miners there. And it was great. So that's what got me playing an instrument in the first place, which initially was cornet and was later trumpet and flugelhorn. And and it was a beautiful thing to be a part of. In terms of things, the imprint it left on my writing, I think that there's people from, I don't know, steeped in other musical traditions who kind of see brass instruments like the trumpet and the trombone, for example, as kind of obnoxious, in your face, raucous instruments, which they of course can be. But there's something that I have in my kind of mind's ear that I always find makes its way into my writing, which is the softness and the warmth and the richness that a brass ensemble can deliver, and that of course is clearly from my kind of background in the kind of brass band thing, where the repertoire is like a lot of hymns and marches. Basically, that's what it is. So it's kind of like classical upbringing in the sense that you're reading musical notation, you're playing with vibrato, you're trying to play in tune, but it's not Mahler and Debussy and Shostakovich and Mozart. It's these kind of like a lot of hymns and a lot of British hymns. So the track I've picked out is probably my favorite of these kind of hymns that we used to warm up with, which is called Abide With Me.
You see many people, I guess, from working class background, like in the music scene much now in comparison to back then?
Well, funnily enough, you do in the brass section.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the kind of a lot of the great brass players that this country has produced came through that kind of system. So the great Derek Watkins, great commercial lead trumpet player. Someone like Andy Greenwood, another great commercial lead trumpet player, but then also people like on the classical side of things, the current head of the principal of the LSO trumpet, James Fountain, he came through. I think it was Grindthorpe, and then Phil Cobb, I think he's the principal of the BBC Symphony Orchestra. He came through the Salvation Army brass band. So you're seeing that littered around. Still in music at the highest level. But yeah, I don't know, maybe for other instrument groups it quite possibly is less so. Yeah.
I actually saw a poll was shown to me by Billy earlier, who was on our course, and he said, and it was talking about not specifically conservatoires, but institutions that specialise in subjects. And conservatoires were on there, obviously, and I think it's something like the top conservatoires in London are taking like over 50% private school students at the moment onto their courses. I don't know if you know why that is, or if you have any thoughts about that.
Man, I was not prepared for this conversation, but I'm up for it. I mean, look, music tuition is expensive, and I was lucky that I came through this kind of background where I think I have to talk to my mum about this. I think the music tuition was free for most of the time, and then I think they introduced some kind of nominal fee just to kind of really like secure commitment to the lessons, I think.
So to join a brass band?
To join the brass band is free for young people.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's mine. Yeah, I mean, so like the adult band will pay some kind of subs. And those subs will fund the music and that they're going to purchase to play, and the maintenance of the instruments. Because the band, this is the other cool thing, the band own the instruments. So you don't even have to own an instrument to join one of these bands. They'll give you a band, an instrument. They'll give you an instrument. And you might think, okay, well, what if I want to leave that band? That's fine. And join another band. You give back your instrument, and then you go to the other band and they give you the instrument. And so it's kind of, it's just this thing about access, isn't it? We don't need ownership of things. We just need access to things. There's something I think really beautiful about that. But yeah, of course, that's a big barrier. Although brass instruments in general are quite cheap. Of course, that's not the case for stringed instruments. I did a gig the other day with an LSO cellist whose bow was worth £80,000. It's just like absolutely bonkers.
Mental.
I don't know, but yeah, I think they introduced a nominal fee, but my mum told me that we've got family friends from Bristol, and she said that for a term of lessons, she was paying what they were paying for one lesson, you know. So it was just an incredible infrastructure. You know, mind you, they were group lessons, and they were kind of probably 20 to 30 minute lessons at school in a group, but I don't think I would have responded well to one-to-one tuition at that young age. I think I was too restless, and I just wanted to be around my mates. So my mates being present in the lessons, I think really, was... And same with brass band. I mean, I think, look, don't get me wrong, I loved music, and I loved the music we played in brass bands, and I loved the thrill of, God, I just play this note, you play that note, and you play that note at the same time, and we get this thing, and it's like a major triad, and it sounds incredible. I can't believe it, and just hearing nice voice leading. Again, it's all in those hymns. Just come and practice harmony and just getting off on it. Plagal cadence. Wow, it sounds incredible. It's like being hugged. It's just such a beautiful thing. And so don't get me wrong, I loved all that, but I was also going to the brass band every week, twice a week, thinking, God, I want to hang out with my friend Gaz and Hannah and Chris and all these people that were there. It was so social for me. And I've, in the time I've been in London, I'm not really doing private tuition at the moment, but there's been times where I did do private tuition, and I was getting paid a lot of money to go to, kind of kids' houses who had rich parents who could afford to pay me that money. But I just remember thinking, I don't think I would enjoy this kind of music learning that I'm giving you. I think, that they weren't involved in any kind of ensembles. They weren't learning in a group. They didn't really perform regularly. That's the thing. We performed all the time with the brass bands and stuff. So I don't know. There's a pride in that. And also you're getting that performance experience without the pressure of, I don't know, like this. I'm thinking of one student in particular I used to teach whose mum used to enter her in for these like recital competitions. It's just like a 9-year-old girl playing the really hard repertoire on the trumpet, and it was really nervous, and if she split a note she'd like get really upset, and I just thought, God, this is like kind of traumatizing what we're doing to you here. But far better to just stick you on third cornet in a brass band and just get used to just being on stage performing. Let the older people take the pressure solos for a bit, and you work your way up until you get to that point where you've got that experience and that resilience. I don't know. I just thought it was a great way to have access to music, and I just really enjoyed myself.
And the track that you've added to the mixtape is, I mean, harmonically, it's very, it's beautiful. It's incredible. Do you think that, I can only imagine that you brought that, I don't know if it's just stayed in your ear or you've just, I don't know, but you've brought that into your arrangement and composition process.
For sure, it's interesting. So I ended up studying jazz for my undergraduate, where you learn kind of various techniques in arranging, 4-part close harmony and all this stuff, and drop two, and semi-open and open, all these voices and quartal voices and whatnot. But basically, none of that does you any good when you're arranging like a triadic pop tune that has 3, really max has 3 notes per chord. And the thing I draw upon when I'm having to arrange stuff like that, if I want additional voice movement in the inner parts, is all that hymn stuff, kind of like species counterpoint, suspensions, resolutions, finding just inner melodies within the voice leading of the inner parts. And I think that's kind of, I draw from that thing, not the jazz thing. It's from those kind of hymns that we used to play. Crazy.
Amazing. So moving away from the brass band, you said that you got into jazz after that, right? At university or Conservatoire?
Yeah, I went to Leeds Conservatoire.
And then you also said that you played in places like Ronnie Scott's and like the London Jazz Festival very early in respect to your career.
Yeah.
How did that sort of come about and how did that develop?
Man. So when I was, I went to Leeds Conservatoire to study jazz, and look, I love the trumpet. I'm a trumpet player. I practice the trumpet, and when I'm practicing jazz. That's where I'm going. You know, I just gigs aside. You know, if I'm just practicing for me, that's what I'm practicing. And I love the trumpet, but I think it was probably in about my second year of Leeds that I kind of realised I started to become aware of, you know, the London scene, the New York scene. I started to realise that, you know, this isn't dead music. Like this music isn't just a thing that happened in the 50s and 60s in certain parts of America. This is like a tradition that's alive and well, and there's people who are around now that can play just like those cats that I look up to in the 50s and 60s. And more than that, they've assimilated all that history, and now they're adding their own chapter to the music, which is just an incredibly profound, deep thing to do. And I think I was in my second year and I kind of realized, do you know what? I love the trumpet. I'm going to keep shedding it. I'm going to keep walking this path. But if I'm going to make a contribution to this music, I don't think it's going to be as a trumpet player. A lot of these cats, I don't want to make excuses, but a lot of these cats maybe started a bit earlier than I did. They had access to like a good jazz education. I had access to a great education for the trumpet, as in the instrument, and for reading music and whatnot. But in terms of kind of improvised jazz and actual small bands, basically like Black American music, there wasn't really, there wasn't really a lot of information out there in my community. And of course, it's before YouTube. You know, now you just YouTube it, you know, and go on a you know, Wikipedia wormhole. Now that this is before all of that, so there was a bit of a postcode lottery, and I didn't live near a junior Trinity or junior Royal Academy or a Wells Cathedral School or a Chetham's School of Music or anything like that. So I was kind of going in a bit blind. That's me making excuses. There's no excuse. But anyway, whatever. I kind of realized, my contribution is not going to be as a trumpet player, but I was really into arranging. I was really into composition. And I looked around the scene and I didn't see loads of people doing that. I was like, there's loads of killing trumpet players playing better than I will ever be able to play. But at that time, at least, there really wasn't a lot of people running a big band. And if they were, it wasn't playing their own music. So I kind of decided that's going to be my thing, you know. So I just really lent into that. Then I got to my end of my time at Leeds and kind of was like, okay, if I'm going to take this arranging thing and composition thing seriously, I've got some big holes I need to plug, you know, which were, well, basically the Western classical tradition. As I mentioned, the brass band thing was classical upbringing in the sense that you're reading musical notation, but not in the sense that you're playing the kind of core canon of like Western European art music, whatever you want to call it. And so I knew I had some catching up to do. A lot of people who you'll know in the department have a really good knowledge of repertoire because they played it all. You know, they played it. They've sat in orchestras and they've played, you know, all the Shostakovich symphonies, all the Mahler symphonies, what have you. And they've heard it broken down. That's what you get in a rehearsal. They go, okay, can we just hear the French horns from, you know, rehearsal mark G or something? And then you're getting to hear all that. That's incredible. So I hadn't had that. So I knew I had to had some catching up to do with that. I'd also was weak on stringed instruments because not only had I never written for strings, but I'd never been in an ensemble with stringed instruments. You know, I was just went for brass bands, obviously no strings in there, and big bands, and on the jazz course at Leeds. So I'd never even been in a room with like a string section. Never mind had music played. So I was like, right, I need to. If I'm serious about this, I need to plug these gaps. I think if there's one piece of advice I could give is to acknowledge that you've got these holes in your musicianship, and we all have holes in our musicianship. I still have holes in my musicianship. You know, all the heads of department have got holes in their musicianship. And instead of kind of shying away from that, actually just lean into it and embrace it and go, okay, I'm going to like confront this head on. You know, I remember, you guys will know, great teacher here, Steve Montague, my predecessor of the orchestration large module. Yeah. And he taught me that module when I was a student at Trinity. And I remember him playing us this Charles Ives score, and he said, guys, you know, isn't this curious? Look at the bottom of the score. It says strings may or may not be muted. I'm sort of thinking, I didn't know strings could be muted. Okay, right, cool. And then he goes, and we just listened to a recording. He goes, Matt, were the strings muted? And I'm like, and I'm thinking, when you put a mute in a brass instrument, it sounds like completely different. But these just, they sounded like strings to me. I'm going to say no. And he goes, okay, guys, put your hands up if you think the strings were muted. And everyone puts their hands up. I'm like, damn, okay. You know, like everyone has this knowledge that I don't have. So what did I do? I'm like, okay, I've got to write a section that's consored in my piece that I'm going to write for this. And then if there's time in the rehearsal, I'm going to say, can you just try that section without the mute sensor sword? So I can hear and be in the room and be stood. I stood right by the conductor, and I'm kind of like, I don't want to get hippie about it, but you're kind of like feeling the air molecules around you vibrate. I feel like that's just always going to be better than listening to a CD. Because you could just say, well, you should just study more scores, you know, no excuse. But I don't know, I think there's something about being in that room.
Hey guys, don't let your brain switch off when I tell you this. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. And if you're listening on the streamers, please leave us a rating because it really helps us. And let us know who you want to see on the podcast next. Okay.
So anyhow, I came to Trinity to kind of tackle that head on. But you're asking about Ronnie's and the big band thing and the London Jazz Festival thing. I got super lucky because the second I arrived at Trinity, I think I'd been here for like a week, and then they announced there used to be this prize, maybe it still exists, called the Dankworth Prize for Jazz Composition, named after the great British jazz composer John Dankworth.
Is that at Trinity?
It was another institution, as in like it was a thing unto itself. I think it was run by the Worshipful Company of Musicians.
Wow.
I don't know anything about them. There we are. That was, I think that's who ran it. And I don't know, I entered it and I won it. And there was a cash prize. I think there was £1,000, which is brilliant, you know. But, you know, I think more valuable than that was that my piece got performed by a Trinity Laban big band. At Ronnie Scott's. So Trinity, I think most years they do a gig at Ronnie's, and they'd had this arrangement with this Dankworth Prize to play the piece. So I'd been in the door for 5 minutes, and immediately I'm getting my piece performed by 17 musicians on the jazz course, really killing elite musicians, and so generous of them. But afterwards, a few of them said to me, you know, man, we really enjoyed your piece. You know, if you want to book a room or something, we'd love to play some more of your charts. Yeah, book a room and we'll make it happen. So, I just kind of got everyone's numbers and got it all together and got basically enough players together. Laura Jurd was in the first incarnation of my big band. She can talk all about that. And then she started a big band, and I got to play in that. And yeah, we did a record with that band. Anyhow, it was so much fun. But and then, you know, sure enough, I started a big band. And then, I mean, it might have been the week after or the week after that. I had this housemate who'd been in London a bit longer. He was maybe his 4th or 5th year in London, and he was quite established in the scene. And anyhow, he was in a conversation where a promoter who does some of the work at the London Jazz Festival was like, you know, tearing his hair out because he'd had a big band drop out of one of the concerts. And my housemate just went, oh yeah, I'm living with this guy who's got a big band. And so anyhow, a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, because Jazz Fest was normally in November, I'm doing a thing at the London Jazz Festival. It was just, unbelievable. And I was so nervous, not super nervous, I was up for it. But there was a part of me that was a bit nervous, anxious about London, you know, that I knew the sound of the scene down here was ridiculously high, especially in the jazz scene. But it was also just wide open at the same time, because here I was here for 5 minutes and I'm having, I'm doing this thing at the Jazz Festival, and that became like an annual residency. So I did that gig every year. For,
amazing.
I don't know, like 10 years or something. And also that promoter promoted at Ronnie Scott's. And so kind of once he'd seen me consistently deliver good quality programs of music and all the gigs always sold out, he was like, yeah, this guy's ready, you know, and gave me a headline slot at Ronnie's. That became a yearly thing. So every year I do a gig at Ronnie's in the kind of spring, and then a gig at the Jazz Festival in the autumn, which is fantastic. I mean, yeah, that was really good fun. And then it kind of was at COVID, I kind of shelved the big band because, look, I love big band music. I've been bitten by the big band bug for sure. I was early on and love all that stuff, and I love playing in big bands now. But it was just during COVID, and it was as we were coming out of COVID, and a friend of mine asked me to produce one of his albums. I produced a couple of albums for friends, and he was I don't know, he's maybe like 3-4 years younger than me, but this was his 4th album. And I was like, damn, this is your 4th album. I haven't even like got one track, never mind an album. Okay, I need to like pull my socks up and get my act together. But I was reflecting on why. I was like, it's not like I'm not a creative person. Oh yeah, I've been doing all that creative energy into these big band gigs that are great, and you know, some of them are memorable, but some of them even I've probably forgotten about, never mind anyone else. You know, it's history, the sands of time, you know, going through your fingers. So I was like, I need to focus on some kind of studio project from then on, which is when I started Boreal Sun, which I guess we'll talk about at some point. But sorry, I went on a bit of a trajectory there.
That's great.
No, yeah, I mean, is there what do you see much new talent at Ronnie's now that excites you?
Oh man, it's just constant, guys. I mean, it's bonkers. I got asked to sit in with this. There's a great drummer called Finger Nocky who just finished at Guildhall, just had his final this summer, and he started really. He's also, as well as being an incredible drummer, he's a great arranger, composer, and he started while he was there this thing called the London Intercollegiate Jazz Orchestra. So he wanted to start a big band that was basically like a few guys from Academy, a few guys from Trinity, a few guys from Guildhall. Maybe there's people from the college as well. I don't know.
That's cool.
And great idea, right? I mean, there should be an orchestra like that. I mean, there's such a good idea. And he was really backed by Guildhall, and you know, it's brilliant. Anyhow, and he just messaged me, and I was like, oh man, would you be up for sitting in? You know, it's no money, but you know, we're going to be playing some Jim McNeely and Maria Schneider, like some of my favorite composers. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it. So I came down, you know, trumpet, everything, and I'm sitting in this section, and there's all these current students, you know, and a lot of them were from Trinity. I think maybe 3 were from Trinity, and there was only 5 of us in total. And we sat there playing these brick hard charts, and I'm operating at not that quite the limit, but like near the limit of what I can sight read, you know. And these guys, they just, no problem. You know, they're not breaking sweat. I'm looking at the guys next to me charts, and he's got these changes, these brick hard harmony. And again, I back myself to know a bit about harmony, you know. And I'm looking at this, what the hell is that harmony? That's I wouldn't know where to start on that. And I know this guy's never seen it before, because Finn was handing it out in the rehearsal. So I know they were all reading like I was reading. And sure enough, this guy, not only is he like making the changes, but he's expressing himself, he's saying something. The solo had narrative. I just thought like, what's going on, man? And that's just the trumpet section. I mean, all of them, you know. I don't know, it's crazy. I mean, my band Boreal Sun, we had a gig recently at the Ealing Jazz Festival, and I was struggling to fix a guitarist for it. And you know, that it's hard music. You know, that's not music you just read. Anyhow, I tried to book an old friend of mine, Chris Montague, outstanding guitarist, went to Leeds as well, now based in London. And he was like, Matt, I can't do it, but call my student. you know. And I called this student, and anyhow, I've just never met him, never heard him. I don't even think he had an Instagram account, so it really was just like, hope this guy's all right, you know, he's just going to come in and like read down this brick hard music. He just absolutely nailed it.
Crazy.
Like the guy was totally unassuming, beautiful cat. Anyhow, so I'm just bombarded by it. You know, Emma Ravitch is an outstanding sax player, great alto player called Donovan Hafner right now is incredible. Oh God, I don't know. It melts my brain to even think about it. There's people I'm overlooking. Parthenope, ex-Trinity, great, not just sax player, but great vocalist, songwriter. I mean, that's the other thing that I think is crazy for you guys. When I was at Trinity, I didn't have a website. I don't even think I was on Instagram yet. I think it existed, but I wasn't on it. MySpace had kind of died. I had a Facebook thing, but I wasn't really using it no one used Facebook to promote. I wouldn't say no one, but it wasn't like what the way Instagram is used now as a kind of like portfolio thing. You know, there's pictures of me throwing up into a toilet, you know, from some fresh as we, you know, fucking carnage or something. But so I wasn't doing any of that. You know, people's smartphones weren't able to stream YouTube videos then, so the kind of video content that you guys are expected to be able to produce now, audio recording, self-recording, self-producing, self-engineering, that all horn players now have to do. I've had to learn it now, but my God, I'm late to the party. You know, I mean, I learned during COVID because I was like, wow, I finally got time to like learn how to do this thing. But now all you guys are aware that that's part of what you have to do. And I can't believe that with all the pressures that you guys are under, beyond being composers or performers, but like being a social media manager, understanding social media algorithms, being a web designer, being a promoter, being a video editor, an audio editor, an engineer, understanding, you know, Spitfire sample packs. And I'm just like, oh my God, it melts my brain. And you'd think the quality of the playing would suffer. You'd think that, you know, with all these things to juggle, people would be prioritizing those things at the expense of their performing, but it just doesn't seem to be the case. I'm just constantly blown away by the standard of just technique, reading, creativity. It's just awareness of the history of the music. It just fills me with a lot of hope for the future of music.
And even I was speaking to Alex Paxton, and he was saying that even, you know, all of his pieces for his albums are usually recorded by players independently, you know, and they're classical players or commercial classical players, which I think in the past, obviously, that wouldn't have happened as well. Yeah. So it's not just like limited to jazz and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Same with Boreal Sun. All the strings were recorded. I mean, this was during COVID, but by my friend Simi Singh, who was outstanding, I mean, I guess classical violinist and violist, but you know, she can do incredible home recordings. And I took it to, when I got it mixed, to this guy Alex Kilpatrick, who is like so critical of other engineers' work. He was, they should have recorded it like this, and God, that frequency is really bothering me, and I can tell that the nut on the floor tom is loose, and why didn't they hear that in the room and tighten it? But he was just like, this is brilliant. Yeah, this is excellent work, you know. And so, you're right. I mean, that's just, and people become nerds about that. People become nerds about drum sounds. My philosophy with trumpet is I just like Coles. There's this Coles ribbon mic that I love, and I just learned that from doing tons of studio sessions, and being on them. And sometimes you go back in the control and be like, I don't like that sound, and it's not just because I'm making a shit sound. It's like the way it's being captured. So whatever that microphone is. And then I turn up to things and be like, oh God, is that fucking microphone again? Yep, here's that sound, don't like it. But then every time I saw this like one microphone called the Coles, I first had experienced it at Maida Vale. I was like, what is this sound? And I was like, listen back there, what's making that sound so good? What's this mic? I've never seen a mic shaped like that. It's like, it's a Coles ribbon mic. You know, there's okay, cool. Saw it again, like, I don't know, a few months there. Oh my God, that mic. So I knew by the time it got me to like, assemble my own studio, it was just like I knew I'm buying a matched pair of calls, and then other stuff I took, like about the interface and the preamp and all that stuff. I had to take some advice from, but I just knew the thing with the calls. So my thing is just like, that's my sound. You know, but some people are like, they offer their clients, they're like, what do you want? Here's my microphone cabinet, and here's my outboard gear, and crazy. I'm not on that level, and I kind of don't maybe desire to be on that level, because I like working with engineers, who know more than me, and I trust them, and
Amazing.
What kind of music did you share with your friends and enjoy, like in your teenage years? What was like the kind of thing that you all got around?
Man, you know what? I look back on that. Maybe because I grew up in a town that was not super small, about 100,000 people, bigger than some of the smaller cities like Durham and Chichester or something. But yeah, look, it's a town, it's not a city. And I think when you grow up in places of that size, there's almost like not enough of you to be cliquey. So you'd go to like house parties, and 1 minute it's like new metal, the next minute it's like Ibiza euphoric trance, the next minute it's a Tribe Called Quest. It's I don't know, it was just the music was just bopping around all over the place, and so we were getting off on all sorts. I mean, like a lot of electronic music, drum and bass, trip hop, that was kind of really booming at that time, Massive Attack and Portishead and Tricky, and I guess the DJ Shadow thing was kind of trip hop arguably, but and then
could you explain that to the listeners?
Wow, so trip hop is a kind of, how can I describe it? Well, it basically came out of Bristol. I mean, a lot of Bristolians, great output from that city, no doubt. But spearheaded by Massive Attack, Tricky, Portishead, but there was other bands. It's kind of like, how would you describe it? Kind of like sad hip hop without rapping, where people are like singing over, like it's. I guess the connection to hip hop is that like the break beats, like the drums, like that thing, but then kind of a lot of experimental weirdness over the top, and normally kind of vocalists singing over the top. Massive Attack worked with, I can't remember her name, but the singer from the Cocteau Twins, famously on like Teardrop, the great Jamaican reggae vocalist Horace Andy on tunes like Angel and Man Next Door. But there was great bands like Lamb were from, somewhere in Yorkshire, and the Sneaker Pimps, where were they from? They were from like Hartlepool or something. Anyhow, there was loads of these bands, but it was quite a British phenomenon. DJ Shadow, I assume, is American, but he was signed by James Lavelle, who was a British guy, so it was quite a British phenomenon. You know, and it was just a cool sound. And I still listen to those records, and I'm like, I still listen to Mesney by Massive Attack. It's just like, it sounds like it was made yesterday, and you just hear sounds like, what is that? So much now in music, you're like, oh yeah, there's that Logic preset, or there's that, even like Outbox.
Logic drums.
Yeah, Logic drums, all that stuff. And even the patterns, but with that, you just listen back to, what the hell is that music? And the samples are drawn from kind of weird places, with hip hop, it's that Isley Brothers record, or it's that Ahmed Jamal record or whatnot. But with some of this stuff, I listen back to, I'm like, where is that sample from? I have no idea. Incredible stuff. So so that was around. So trip hop, goodness me, lots of metal, love heavy metal to this day. A lot of folk music, I should really talk about that. My dad is of Irish descent, and there was a lot of British and Irish folk music in the household, which I think there's a lot of kind of modal colours that have entered my compositional vocabulary from that, really, you know, and melodic sensibilities as well, probably. Oh man, yeah, electronic music, drum and bass I mentioned.
And you've chosen for your track for this, you've chosen Bittersweet Symphony.
Oh,
the
damn,
Verve.
of course, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, the Britpop thing was like alive and well. Yeah, no, that was an incredible time. You know, I don't know. I don't want to be super nostalgic and about the past, because I think where we're at musically is also great. But I mean, now it's hard to imagine that all the top 10 tracks being homegrown bands playing instruments. Mm-hmm. I mean, just that's quite hard to imagine now, right? But that was normal. You know, and there was so many bands that were part of that movement, and yeah, it was just fantastic. And I'm lucky enough now to be working very closely with Alex James, who's the bass player from Blur, and he's kind of set up this thing called Britpop Classical, so where we're trying to kind of honour that music with like full orchestral forces. Amazing. But not as in doing kind of like weird arrangements of things. There's still like a rhythm section, you know, rocking out. You know, we're not, you know, I don't know. Sometimes these crossover things, they lose the integrity of and the energy of the music by the change of the instrumentation. But a lot of these songs from that era, like the piece that I've picked, Bittersweet Symphony by the Verve, who I believe are from Wigan, already have full orchestrations and string arrangements, and you know, Blur tunes, the Universal, some Oasis tunes. I think Wonderwall's got a cello on it. You know, maybe it's got a full section on it as the track develops. I can't remember, but yeah. But I love all that music, and I just think it really captures something real. And yeah, Bittersweet Symphony. It's just the lyrics are just unbelievable. It's the first line of the song. It's a bittersweet symphony, that's what life is. Trying to make ends meet. You're a slave to money, then you die. It's just like, okay, you've really captured something there, you know, about what it's like to live under capitalism, and in Britain in particular, arguably. But yeah, it's just so beautiful. And I just feel like that message of that song has never been more true, and will probably, unfortunately, continue to be true. And will continue to speak to generations to come. We did the first performance recently at his Alex James has his own festival called the Big Festival, which is really like a food festival, but they have a really big main stage. So we're playing to about 30,000 people, and we expected there to be people of my age and a bit older, perhaps. But what we didn't expect was really young people, like teenagers. Yeah. Knowing every word of these songs. So clearly this music is going to be one of those things. You know, when you're living through something, you don't really know, you know, how much of this is going to last. You know, this music we're listening to now, will some of it be lost in the annals of time? Or will it be remembered like, I don't know, Joni's remembered, or, you know, whatever, Miles Davis is remembered. But clearly I think it's kind of evident to me now that there was something captured in that movement that's going to keep it kind of relevant for many generations to come.
You know, the one that takes you to the places where all the things meet, yeah. You know, I can change.
Question 3 is about your musical heroes. We've asked you to give a track about your musical hero.
Damn. Okay, yeah, so yeah, the track I picked is System by a band called Brotherly. Brotherly were a band of two outstanding musicians, a bassist and producer called Rob Malarkey, and a vocalist producer called Anna Stubbs, and they met at Leeds Conservatoire, where I studied.
Wow.
And they made the move down to London, and that they passed through Leeds maybe a couple of years before I got there, so our paths never crossed. But it's just such great music, and what I like about Brotherly is there's like multiple points of entry with the music, you know. So they do quite clever stuff, metrically, rhythmically, but also harmonically. So if you want to nerd out, there's plenty to get your teeth into. But at the same time, they are kind of like pop songs. They're written with a pop sensibility, and you know, you can imagine a child like listening to it, being like, yeah, like dancing around. You know, it's music you can dance to.
I mean, listening to it, I felt like a drum and bass influence.
For sure. In fact, yeah, because I've kind of come to know them both pretty well. Anna in particular, the vocalist, and I think she said that the band came out of them trying to do like a live drum and bass thing, you know. But the thing that when I spoke to Rob about the bands, he said it was really influenced by the broken beat movement. So I mean, we've been talking a lot about kind of British musical movements, and yeah, the broken beat thing came out of West London. There's great documentaries you can check out on YouTube. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But he was really inspired by that thing. So people like Kaidi Tatham, Bugs in the Attic. I don't know. I mean, if you don't know this music, you don't know it. It's one of those things. It's pretty underground. I guess it kind of is visible now a bit in the kind of current UK jazz thing. Some of the kind of prominent figures in that, like Ezra Collective, like Ashley Henry, have been influenced by that. I wouldn't say their music is explicitly broken beat, but you can see the kind of the DNA of that in their music.
Just getting closer, baby. Getting closer, baby. I will not be discouraged. Yeah. Let them suppress me. I won't ever stop fighting.
I like art like that, where it's like The Simpsons, right? You know, you can like, when The Simpsons used to be on TV all the time. Anyone in my generation knows 6 p.m. The Simpsons is on, and the whole family's there, and you're watching it. And you're watching it when you're like 8 years old, and you're like, oh, look at these funny yellow people, you know, like, and then you kind of get to know their personalities, and then you kind of, oh wow, like this, you know, this episode superficially is about this thing, but actually the subtext is this thing, and whoa, and then you go, oh my God, there was this like deep political allegory, that's the word I was looking for, to this episode that, you know, I wouldn't have got when I was 8 years old. There's just like multiple points of entry, but they're all legitimate. You know, I was like going to an art exhibition and like a Rothko exhibition or something, and then some people are like contextualizing him in whatever context he emerged from, and then there's just some kids running around being like, wow, look at all these colors, you know, and I think that's all just legit. I think all those things are legit, but the best art allows for that. The best art allows for you can enter here, you can enter here, you can enter everywhere in between, and that's what I love about Brotherly. But yeah, so I want any kind of art that I make to have that kind of quirk where there's multiple points of entry, where people are like, oh, that's cool, and some will know why that's cool. They'll know, like, you know, looking under the bonnet of a car and be like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. But some people will like have no idea, but be like, but cool, you know, I can roll with this is fun. So yeah, that's why I love this music.
Talking about points of entry, I think you can take it to the extreme level as well, because you've got Sam Hayden, who teaches here, who, if for people that don't know, is a pretty experimental, very contemporary composer.
Oh yeah.
And I think he started making drum and bass tunes, right?
Yeah, that's how he's.
And I think you can hear that in his music, the rhythmic drive, even though he works in ways that, you know, predetermined, I think you can hear the rhythmic complexity in the music that he makes as well.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, everyone, you speak to every composer that you know, and they'll have, you know, in the contemporary classical world or what have you, they'll have interests outside of that canon of music. It's just music, you know. And I mean, God, drum and bass. The cool thing about drum and bass is it's, the rhythmic stuff and this, that, and the other, but also any music that involves samples, often you have like the sample, but it's like not exactly in tune or in key with this other sample. And so you might have like weird kind of crunches harmonically, melodically, maybe some like microtonal stuff. And maybe it wasn't conceived like that, but you're just growing up with these sounds in your head. So then when it comes to like composing, you might write something microtonal or rhythmically like off the grid or harmonically off the grid or whatever. And you just go, it's just because I've grown up with these sounds, you know, so I can understand why someone like Sam Head, I mean, you have to speak to him about the exact ways in which it's kind of entered his kind of compositional voice, but it wouldn't surprise me, if kind of his love and experience of the jungle drum and bass thing has not informed a lot of those decision-making process. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also that track that you've given us also, I think you can hear the influence of that on your own music that you're making.
No
Boreal
question.
Sun.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I started Boreal Sun, I've made no secret of this.
Boreal Sun is a duo that you started.
That's right, yeah. So Boreal Sun is this duo I started with this outstanding vocalist called Liselotte Östblom. I guess we'll listen to some of that music shortly, but I made no secret of the fact that when I started that project, I was like, I'm just stopping short of like starting a brotherly tribute band here. You know, I just like, I want to capture exactly what they captured.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I felt this thing that like, and I felt like people want this now. You know, there's something about this music now. You know, the track I've picked in particular, System, is like just this eternal track. If you search Brotherly System in YouTube, you'll find literally hundreds of like drum covers, you know, from some person in Indonesia and people all over America, people in Japan, you know, people in Russia, people all over the world are like, what's going on? This piece is so cool. I want to try and play along to it. That's another thing I think I tried to do with the Boreal Sun thing, was make music that would make people want to pick up their instrument and go, I want to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah.
You know, and to my great delight, that's happened. And I've seen like YouTube videos, Instagram videos. We've been tagged, because you see when someone tags you in a thing, and people who I don't know personally have like, you know, got inside the music and like figured it out. And the dots aren't available. I haven't like made the scores and parts available. I plan to. I should have by now, but currently they're not. So that's someone's actually taking the time to like probably have to get it into some slow down software, slow it down, because there's a lot going on. That harmony, what's going on? It's not functional harmony that you can just hear and go, oh yeah, it's that thing. Yeah, 4 minor 1, fine. It's like, you know, weird stuff and non-functional harmony, I guess. But it's great. So that's another cool thing about Brotherly, is that they absolutely have that about them, you know.
I don't know. I also feel like even in sort of the mainstream, you know, things like hyperpop used to be quite niche and quite experimental, but you see people like Charlie XCX getting very, very big at the moment. And that comes from that, you know, it's these little things that people can grab onto and sort of enter that world and learn more. Yeah,
I love all that music, man. And I love it. Another band that's been a huge influence on Boreal Sun is the band Nower, spelled Knower. Again, another kind of producer-vocalist collab. In this case, Lewis Cole and Genevieve Artadi. I hope I'm getting Artadi. Sorry, thanks. And I think they have that same thing. If you just want to hear what the hell's going on, like one of my students here, Reg White, he's transcribed like 3 or 4 of their tunes, you know, just to be like, I need to understand what the hell's going on. Like, this makes me feel a certain kind of way. Why? You know, I need to understand that. And he's gone and, you know, meticulously transcribed it. It's brilliant. And they've definitely been influenced by hyperpop, you know, just super like bright, ear candy, just like it's all those higher frequencies in the synths. You know, the filter's wide open, and you're getting all those upper harmonics, big swooshes and splashes, and high arpeggiators just going. You know, it's so cool. I mean, it's just a great sound. I mean, I heard that in Alex Paxton's music.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, you know, I haven't really talked to him about hyperpop, but there's no way he's not influenced by that. I mean, you can just hear it in his like woodwind writing. You know, it's just always got these big, bright, tingly piccolo shrieks, and I just kind of feel like that's from that. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is a track from a current artist that you enjoy, inspires you, or that you have worked with?
Okay, so the track I picked for this one is by a wonderful British singer called Jorja Smith. I've had a privilege of working with her on a couple of projects now. The first time I worked with her was on her second record. I contributed a couple of string arrangements for that, booked the string section, conducted the session, had a great time.
So you actually fixed these? Did you fix the plays
I
yourself?
did fix the players. I have a complex relationship with fixing. I generally don't like to fix. You know, you kind of superficially think, yeah, great, but my mate's on a gig. And maybe that's fine if it's like two musicians. But the reality is it's, you know, you've got to make sure they know the arrival time. They've got the correct instruments. You know, hang on, I thought that person was a violinist. Turns out they're a viola player. Oh, no. Okay. Oh, now how can I fix this? And, oh, you know, you've got to go back to the label and the management and be like, this is how much this section or whatever is going to cost you. So and then all of a sudden the cellist reminds you that cellists get, you know, a porterage fee. Oh God, that didn't go on the spreadsheet. Okay, fine. You know, all this stuff. It's kind of a pain in the ass, man.
Yeah.
And I don't do it anymore. I only fix very small things, often like horn sections or something where it's like a couple of mates. But yeah, I did fix that whole string orchestra and conduct it. Yeah, I was quite heavily involved in that album. But the thing I loved about the track that I'm going to play you, so we got to do a thing together earlier this year with the Philharmonie de Radio France, who were, I don't know, I've been told like the best orchestra in Paris, certainly one of. And it was one of those things where I just got supported, like, with everything, you know, instrumentation. Yeah, what do you want? You know, in the percussion, for example, just everything you want. Cool. Just kitchen sink. It was brilliant. You know, double winds, all the auxiliaries, you know, contrabassoon, whatnot. Alto flute, you know, just great stuff. Decent sized strings. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it was pretty solid. Oh man, it was great. You know, harp, celeste, you know, all this stuff. And the other thing is the only people I had to get sign off for on my arrangements were George's MD, which is a great, outstanding producer, pianist called Amane Soganami, ex-graduate of Trinity Laban. He did the jazz course here a few years ago. And he's her MD, and he's just a beautiful guy, outstanding musician, great to work with. So I had to get sign off from him and her. And she signed off on everything. You know, she just loved it. And, you know, a lot of artists that get big when they're young, and she would definitely fall into that category. I mean, she's been in the industry before she was an adult, you know. And a lot of the time I've worked with artists that have had that trajectory, and all they've ever known in terms of like live performance is playing in their band with their sound engineer, their monitor engineer, with their tour manager. Everything's there for them. And for that reason, asking them to venture out of that and be like, all right, now do this gig with an orchestra, you know, no click, you know, no in-ears, just wedges, or like whatever it is, like something that's they're not used to. A lot of them like have meltdowns, you know. It's like, oh, why doesn't it sound like the record? Well, because we're doing a different thing here, you know. And But Jorja was the opposite of that. She was just well up for it. She was well up for it. And she absolutely smashed the gig. It was for a radio broadcast. And yeah, and it was brilliant. They just signed off on everything. And so it kind of, I delivered, I think, 7 arrangements for this particular project. But anyhow, I mean, the amazing back catalogue of outstanding songs that she's written over the years. But because this was a kind of career retrospective, we weren't playing any particular album. And but there was this one song that just knocked me for 6 called The One. And there was just something, I mean, the lyrics are just, it's an outstanding song, you know, that I think everyone can relate to when you delve into it. But then also I was kind of like just doing a cursory search about the song, you know, who wrote the song with her. She writes her own music, but, you know, often she works with other songwriters. Mm-hmm. And you like watch the music video, things like anything to just get inside it. And I saw this still of a thumbnail of the video on YouTube, and it was of Jorja kind of wrapped in this like kind of fur coat kind of thing with a scarf, and all the kind of not quite sepia, but a lot of the colors kind of drained from the image, and it just, I think the video's actually set in like, I don't know, LA or something like that, but just that little image, it just painted immediately this like scenario of like Jorja like walking through like some like town square of like a kind of Swiss, you know, old like, you know, town, you know, with like a medieval church or something, you know.
Tony did this, show me how. Don't wanna be falling in when I'm falling out. Didn't have to give for love. Every time I hold it back, nothing's lost in my head. I'm trying to find who I am. There's choosers, there's takers, there's begging, heartbreakers. I don't wanna feel this way. You never hear me say, come hold me, console me, when really I'm lonely. Even if I feel this way, I don't wanna feel this way.
And it just painted all these sounds, just kind of started to capture my imagination, and I just had a lot of fun. I just felt like I was just there with a paintbrush, being like, yeah, here we go. Here's the leaves rustling. It's autumnal. There's this kind of got that natural minor Aeolian sound that a lot of pop minor key pop ballads have got, which always makes me think of like the autumn and yeah, leaves on the ground and whistling about, and you know, in the second verse there's these like tubular bells which are like making me imagine the kind of the chapel in this like place that I've just dreamed up in my head. I just had a lot of fun, and the players absolutely smashed it. Jorja smashed it. The sound engineers who were recording it were just unbelievable, and I'm really happy with the mix. And yeah, so we're playing. This is completely unreleased. I'm probably going to get in loads of trouble, but this is
it's fine. It's happened.
It's fine. It's happened. Yeah. It's a live recording from that gig.
Amazing.
And it's my arrangement of the Jorja's tune, The One.
And you've worked with loads of huge artists from sort of pop and jazz and R&B, you know, Ezra Collective, right? And Cleo Sol. So
yeah.
And so I'm sure you get asked a lot about how you get these connections in the first place. Mm-hmm. What would you say on that? I mean,
a
lot of them went to Trinity, right? Or a few of them went to Trinity, right?
This is the thing. What I would say to you is like, look around you, man. I had a student who said, "Oh, you know, Matt, all these gigs with Jorja and Becky Hill and Cleo Sol and SAULT and Ezra and Mark Ronson or what have you. I want to get that. I want a piece of that. You know, how do I do that? Like pop arranging thing." And we've got a pop course here now, the Bambi course. Mm-hmm. And I said to them, do you know people on the Bampi course? You know, they kind of looked like vacant. I was like, all right, name me one person on the Bampi course. Like, just give me one person. Surely you've just bumped into some person on the Bampi course in the bar or in the pub. And they couldn't name me one person. And I was just like, if you're interested in this, just do it. It's right there in front of you. And I don't know. I think if you're just real with it and you actually want to do it, then do it. You know, just don't wait to be called. Just like grab people in your community, look around you, and offer to do string arrangements for those people whose songs you like. I mean, and don't be a pain in the ass about it. Don't do it like it's a kind of I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of. It's just like do it because you want to do it. Like you have to. You're compelled to do it, and in doing so, you'll in that process be honing your craft and get really good and get a name for yourself out there in the scene as someone who can do that. And then, you know, sure enough, inevitably, some of these people will get record deals. Some of these people will, I don't know, become managers of artists who, you know, I don't know, who need a string arranger for some reason. And I don't know, or an engineer or a producer. One of them becomes a producer. Now they're working with an artist and they want a string arrangement. Do you know anyone? Yeah, actually I do. You know, Max and Jack or whatever, you know. And I don't know. It just kind of happens like that. It's what I would just say is just like lean into the community that you have right in front of you. The people that we've been talking about, Ezra, Jorja, Cleo, these are all people like my age. You know, they're people that kind of, I like, you know, as I say, you know, Jorja's MD went to Trinity, Ezra Collective, 2 of them went to Trinity, 1 went to the Royal Academy. The Cleo kind of SAULT thing came out of an MD who I'd worked with in another context. You know, it all just, I don't know, it's not as simple. I'd love to be able to say, just email this guy.
Yeah.
You know, they'll call you back and send you some work. You know, it's just not as simple as that. You've kind of just got to be doing it. And you know, you've got to be able to do it. I mean, I think a lot of people think they can do it, but they can't. You know, like the notation has to be perfect. The harmony has to be perfect. There can't be any harmonic inconsistencies. There can't be any errors in the notation because that might mean you don't get all the songs done in the session time that you were supposed to get done. It might sound very simple. Oh, it's just triads. You know, it's a 4-chord pop tune. How hard can it be? But I don't know. You'd be surprised by how many people kind of can't do that. You know. I mean, here's this story. I remember once. So it was not that first London Jazz Festival gig that I talked about earlier, but maybe my second or third London Jazz Festival gig. And my housemate knocks on my door. He's like, Matt, who's your PR person? I'm like, what? It's like, Matt, you've got like a double-page spread in Time Out magazine advertising your gig at the Jazz Festival. I'm like, what? It's like, you know, who did you pay? Like, I was like, I didn't pay anyone. What? And he's like, look, here it is. I'm like, oh my God. And it's reading. They know all about me, like where I studied, my influences. I didn't get an interview. What, this is amazing. And then I get to the bottom of the article, and it's the author. I think her name was Rosie Langley. And I'm like, man, yeah, I know that name. Oh yeah, she was that like kind of obscure alto player who was at Leeds Conservatoire, you know, who like I didn't work loads with, you know, and she maybe wasn't destined to become a professional performer musician, but she'd gotten into the kind of music journalism side of things. And when asked, you know, was probably asked by Time Out, oh, we need something, do a piece on something, some gig at the Jazz Festival gig, some kind of concert preview thing. And she's, looking through this, don't know anything. No, Robert, not the guy I went to college with. Oh, great, I'll do a thing about him.
Yeah.
So it's like the people that you're studying with now, you know, we're on the composition faculty. Look, and some people will become art music composers, but not many. You know, I mean, how much space in the landscape of that, of contemporary music for like delivering commissions, you know, consistently is there now? But a couple will, But there's a million other ways people end up working in the music industry. Some people might become orchestral librarians. Some people might become orchestral managers. Some people might work in PR. Some people might work in music journalism or music promotion or music management. I mean, it's just, there's so many ways people kind of end up in the industry. And, you know, I've got this kind of relationship with the London Concert Orchestra, who are kind of owned by a subsidiary of Sony. Everyone on that team, like, is in the office. You know, the people booking the gigs, programming the events. They're not playing now, but they've all got undergraduates in music. You know, one of them went to did like contrabass at the Royal College, you know, and now he's like the kind of director of this subsidiary of Sony. He probably hasn't touched double bass for years, but there he is. And, you know, so you see these people occupying all kinds of little corners of the scene. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, and that's all opportunities. You know, you don't just have to network, you just have to be present and not a dick, you know.
I don't wanna need no one. I'm not trying to let you in, even if I
Do people, it's really got to start from a pursuit of wanting to get good at something. I really believe that, because a lot of people, let me tell you this story. There's a person I've known for a number of years, whatever, and he's a musician working at a very high level, but there's a lot of holes in his musicianship, and but whatever, and he once was going on. I mean, Matt, this documentary about Quincy Jones had just come out. He was like, Matt, you've got to watch this documentary, man. It's unbelievable, you know. Oh my God, what a life! This guy is just unbelievable. I'm like, yeah, you know, I love Quincy, and you know, I'm a trumpet player and an arranger, and kind of formative, kind of the lens through which I understand music is really through the lens of jazz and stuff. So of course he's already a hero of mine. But yeah, great documentary about him. I watched the documentary. And of course there's all this stuff about the work he did with Sinatra, the stuff he did with Michael Jackson, Thriller, the producer, the stuff he does, his own stuff, The Dude, all that music. But the stuff, I was like, damn, do you know what? I did know he wrote all those film scores, but I never really checked them out. And then in this documentary, I was like, God, wow, his string writing, man. Wow, you know, I've got to get hold of some of these scores. His big band stuff is really ubiquitous. I guess that's my background. You know, every big band's played some Quincy charts at some point. And but I was like, right. So my takeaway from this documentary is I've got to get hold of, you know, his score for The Italian Job or his score for whatever film scores he's done. This other guy's response to the documentary was to get a framed picture of Quincy Jones and put it on the wall of his studio. And I was like, okay. I got awesome. It. It's like, sick. Do you want to be Quincy? Like, what do you want about him? Do you like his musical excellence, or do you like do you want to have that musical excellence and absorb his technique and musical language into your own musical language, or do you just like the idea of stuff? I think there's a lot of people who say they want to be an arranger for pop artists, but actually I think they like the idea of being an arranger for pop artists. You know, do you actually want to do this? Do you actually want to live and breathe it? Do you want to nerd out about, you know, weird notation things, or like, you know, sit with like constant back and forth with like string players about is this double stop possible, or is it comfortable, or what's the most ergonomic pedaling solution for this heart passage? Whatever it is, it's like, you've got to be a nerd, and you've got to be on this journey of pursuing excellence, I believe. I think sometimes it can start with the thing of, I like the idea of doing something, and then the reality drops of, okay, shit, this is hard. I had that with jazz. I think I just like the idea of being a jazz musician. I listened to the records, and I was like, I love the energy behind this. This is so cool. And when Miles is playing the trumpet and I play the trumpet, and I'll participate in this music. How hard can it be? They're just improvising. We can all do that. Oh, shit.
I think a lot of the time these things become like an aesthetic that people aspire to be in and to fit in,
right?
Rather than actually
like the ones where
partaking in
a ranger core.
Sorry, what's this?
A ranger core, where it's just where it's just like you look at you and you're just like, yeah, I want that outfit.
slumped over a desk at 9.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, man. Yeah. So I got to that point with jazz, and I just went, shit. I remember even just in the first week of my undergrad at Leeds Conservatoire, the stuff people were saying, I was just like, fuck, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
This is you've got to give your whole life to it. We're going to be working on this shit until we're dead. And that's the beauty of it. I love that. But it's different to how a lot of kind of music education is in this country. And I know it's different in other places, but I think something about Brit in the kind of ABRSM grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Oh, what mark did you get in your grade 8? Oh, Jesus. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to totally trash that. If ABRSM want to give me a gig, I'll happily do it. I mean, and I think it's great. It's kind of offers, here's, you've done this repertoire, now you can do this repertoire, and it unlocks certain things. It's, it's well thought out, but it's more like, it's less the ARB, whatever, what's it called? Associated Board of ABRSM, and more about the kind of, I guess, the obnoxious, parents behind the scenes. That's what bothers me, and this idea of achievement. I used to teach at this kind of posh prep school. I've just finished at Trinity, Laban, and the head of music then. There was later a brilliant head of music, but the head of music when I first started, was lovely. But she used to tell the students, she was like, "You practice and practice and practice, and then one day it just all falls into place." And I was like, "Well, firstly, that's just untrue. Like, that it never stops. There's always stuff you can't do, and there's always stuff you can be working on." But also, it's like, I don't think that should be the message to children. You should say to children, "Look, I'm on this journey with you. There's stuff I can't do. There's stuff I can't sight read. There's stuff I can't play." Listen to a lot of rhythmic music traditions and just be like, what the hell is going on? I don't really know what's going on in like Moroccan Gnawa music. I don't really know the kind of the true nature of, I don't know, cumbia, or like the kind of Brazilian swing thing, or tango, or it's just, these are deep musical traditions, so I'm going to be figuring this stuff out until I drop dead. That's as simple as that. It's beautiful. There's something beautiful about it, and there's this great quote by Dizzy Gillespie. God, I've got to get this right. So something like, you wake up one day, there's this battle that goes on between you and the trumpet, and you wake up one day, some days you win, the other days the trumpet wins, and then eventually you drop dead and the trumpet's won. It's kind of, music's like that, we're just here to just get a glimpse of an understanding. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I'm thinking in a way, Bittersweet Symphony kind of, I feel like it sums up in a way your ethos, in that it's quite existential, but it thinks about community in quite a way. And
absolutely.
Togetherness.
Well, that's the joy, isn't it? I mean, look, I like the joy of finding things out. Like, I like reading like popular science, like all that stuff, and people like Richard Feynman and like, Stephen Hawking and stuff. Just because, not because I'm going to be a physicist, obviously, but you're just like, God, that's cool, isn't it? You know, it's just like there's a joy I get from finding these things out. And, you know, I like reading philosophy and the things, I don't know, when you learn about different things, it gives you new kind of apparatus through which to look at the world and understand the world. And yeah, I don't know, I just get that with music daily, having been doing it for, God, are we at like 30 years now? Yeah, I've been doing it for more than 30 years, and it's still whooping my ass, and I'm sure in 30 years from now it'll still be whooping my ass, but it'll still be giving me these like light bulb moments of I think I'm getting the hang of it now. You know, I once had this one thing where I was like, jazz musicians always get together and, you know, have little plays with each other, and we were like, I don't know, learning some standard, I can't remember, and playing it in different keys. And every chorus we changed the key. So we play a chorus, and then the next chorus is a semitone up, or a semitone up from that, or a tone up, and then there's different cycles, right? And we started working on the minor third cycle. So like you go up a minor third, up a minor third, up a minor third, up a minor third, and then you're back to where you started, right? It's like one of those like computer games where you drive off the end of the screen and you appear at the bottom of the screen. I don't know if you guys, this is like old computer games, but and I just had this thing because I started just playing some kind of like diminished stuff over one of the dominant scales, and just had this thing of like, oh yeah, I'm like playing the same diminished scale that I'm playing in all the other keys. Oh wow, the diminished scale is this like portal to every key that's on that minor third axis. You know, and you just go, God, I hadn't even thought about that, but I just kind of uncovered it when we were just having this play. And yeah, it's just constant things like that happen, and it's such a joy. I love it so much. And yeah, you mentioned community. That for me is what I'm all about. You know, this is a community. Trinity Laban's a community. All the kind of the session scene is a community. The string scene is a community. The brass scene is a community. The jazz scene is a community. The West End show scene is a community. There's all these communities, and there's overlap, but they also are kind of distinct in their own way, and they're all beautiful and have different kinds of characters. And I just love to be part of that. I think musicians are generally pretty interesting people as it comes. I think sometimes you take it for granted when you go to some wedding and you're chatting to people and you're like, Jesus, man, 2/3 of these people are boring as sin, you know, and because I'm used to chatting to musicians, you know, and so I love it. Music's given me everything, man. So yeah, nothing but love for music and gratitude for like what I get to do.
Just before we get onto the final prompt, I just want to touch on your conducting.
Sure.
You've done Ministry of Sound, right?
Sure.
You've done the Britpop thing. You've done the SAULT at the festival at what was it, All Points East?
All Points East recently, yeah.
You know, you've done all these film scores as well, the live film scores. How did you? I don't know. How did you even enter that world? How did you go from doing these arrangements and these jazz world compositions to going into that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Great question, because it's kind of something that I just fell into, which is crazy because some people decide when they're 7 years old they want to be conductors and spend their teenage years memorizing orchestral works, then go to the Royal Academy or what have you, and just completely obsessed with the discipline. And I've just kind of fallen into it. And it really happened doing the way I'm sure you guys have conducted your own stuff. You write a piece and realize, this needs a conductor. There's just a few things that just need the conductor just to give an upbeat or something, or there's a row, there's a rate, there's something that needs navigating. There's a time signature's flying around. And just like that, it was kind of like I'd done some musical direction module at Leeds Conservatoire, but it wasn't super thorough, and it certainly wasn't orchestral. It was kind of jazz, rhythmic music thing, where in a lot of the cases you just count the tune off, and then it's really the drummer is the conductor. But yeah, whatever. I came here and had brought music that required conducting. Like a lot of my big band stuff had kind of odd meters flying around, fermatas, tram lines, Ciasura moving on. There's something there, rails, rits, rals, rals, a chels, and just things that needs a decision maker in the middle, and also the rehearsal has to be managed well.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the skill. That the reason I've ended up doing so much of it is I think I do back myself to run an efficient rehearsal, and I can look at a score and go, this is going to be fine. We don't need to give hardly any rehearsal time to this. They could probably read it on the gig. This is going to cause problems. I need to like make sure, okay, I identify this. This is going to need like 10 minutes of the rehearsal just on these 8 bars or something. And kind of make it I make it like a rehearsal plan. And anyhow, whatever. And so yeah, did a lot of that. That's kind of where I kind of cut my teeth, was just like conducting my own music. Then I start getting these arranging gigs for recording artists where I've either done the arrangements or they've done the arrangement, but kind of by playing something in on a MIDI keyboard into Logic or Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And then they've needed me to turn that into readable music notation because, of course, classical musicians don't read piano roll. They read crotchets and minims and quavers or quarter notes and half notes and eighth notes, I should say, for our American comrades across the pond. But they and also and then there's stuff that often isn't in the MIDI data. I don't know, articulation, slurs, dynamics. Sometimes it's implied, but whatever. You just have to go through and that I call orchestration. It's not arranging. Arranging implies there's some kind of composition going on. You might write an introduction, you might write a coda, you might write a counter melody in the second verse, you might reharmonize something, right? These are kind of compositional bits of composition technique. But yeah, orchestration is more of a craft. So here I am, I'm doing arranging orchestration for these people, and it'll be for a studio session or it'll be for a live thing, and they're like, we need a conductor for this session. It might as well be you. Can I do that? Yeah, I can conduct that. Yeah, and I know the dots inside out, of course, because it's my dots. Often I'll know the players, so there's that shortcut there. I've got a working relationship with the players that I'm conducting. So I think I just did a bunch of these things that were quite visible, and just it was out there that people knew, okay, Matt conducts as well as playing the trumpet and arranging. Then I remember I got a big break working with a wonderful artist called Omar Kamal, and he was being MD'd by an outstanding trumpet player called Quentin Collins, dear friend of mine, big hero of mine. And he'd MD'd this artist, and there'd normally be like a string quartet and maybe 3 horns, kind of like jazz. Think like Sinatra meets like James Bond theme aesthetic meets like Arabic music, like cool. Popular music, like Kulthum and Abdul Halib and all this stuff. Anyhow, anyhow, he'd MD'd this thing, and we're talking not small bands, but kind of like maybe 12-piece bands, and he could just be playing and go like, one hand and this and the other. Anyhow, this artist got an opportunity to play in Lebanon with the Lebanese National Symphony Orchestra, and it was a huge orchestra. It's the most first violins I've ever. I think there was like 16 first violins. It was like, whoa, and huge percussion section, and then this big band from Britain, full of all mates, people I knew, and basically he was like, oh no, this is too much. I can't conduct that. Like you need a proper conductor for that. But he'd done 2 of the arrangements. He was like, maybe I'd like to conduct my own arrangements, So he was like, I need a conductor who then, when I'm conducting, can play my parts on the trumpet. So someone suggested me, and so I got to go to Beirut and conduct the Lebanese National Symphony Orchestra.
And very niche skill set.
Exactly, with this insanely thin Venn diagram. Yeah, I think Jules Buckley was the first call. Obviously, he was a little bit busy. And I was the second call. Here I am feeding off his scraps, but that's not too bad, right? And so, it was unbelievable. And with that artist, then the next thing we were like doing sold out Dubai Opera House. We did... we literally played at the pyramids of Giza, in Egypt. So I'm just like conducting an orchestra, and there's the Sphinx right there. What's going on? So that got me loads of, I guess, just visibility. It's like, oh, gee, Matt's serious. Okay, right, anyhow, and it was kind of, so I was seen doing a lot of that kind of jazz crossover conducting stuff. Anyhow, then the London Concert Orchestra, who I mentioned earlier, they had this show that they have a bunch of different, I guess, products that they have that tour, and one of them was this Sinatra show called Simply Sinatra, and they just get a great big band, always fixing amazing musicians playing all that music, big string section, big band, amazing vocalists, just incredible, and amazing arrangements, like meticulously transcribed, mainly by a guy called Calamau, who's just unbelievable arranger, musician. Anyhow, and they called me for that based on, they did, look at this guy, and he's doing this really high profile stuff. So then I did that, which was, in my comfort zone, because it's really a jazz thing. It's more a jazz thing than it's an orchestra thing, because the principles of jazz music. Anyhow, and then, I did a good job, and then they're like, oh man, he's done a great job with this. Let's get him on another thing, let's have him, conducting this live Paddington film, I'm like, yeah, sounds great. Got the score. Whoa. I mean, it was bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff that you won't notice when you're watching films and the score's just happening, but basically, certain hits or changes in harmony have to happen at very precise times, often to do with dialogue, to do with an explosion, to do with the footsteps or what have you that's happening visually in the film. And, dialogue isn't transcribed meticulously to a tempo. It fluctuates all the time. So a lot of film scores, you end up with these wild, what I call time signature gauntlets, where you're kind of like every bar is a different meter.
Yeah.
And completely unrelated. Often there's tempo gauntlets as well. So you've got time signature changes, tempo changes, and this Paddington score, let me tell you, it never went more than 8 bars without either a time signature change or a tempo change or a fermata. And this is an hour and 40 minutes worth of this.
Yes,
and
intense.
It was insanely challenging. It's extreme. It was one of the big, I was super stressed. I depped out a gig I couldn't spare one day not looking at this score. I had to live and breathe it. Anyhow, so, but I got it over the line. I like to think I did a really good job. And so then, of course, that they're doing another thing, and it was this Elton John biopic, Rocket Man, amazing film. And that was way easier because, of course, it was like songs. It was like his songs in 4/4 at one tempo. Whew, that was a doddle. And then I've done more modern film scores which are done to click, I did this Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse film, incredible score by Daniel Pemberton, but there's a few time signature gauntlets in that, but it's not too bad. And then there was another one. Oh god, this was hard. I did one a John Barry score for a film called Dances with Wolves. What was interesting about that was no click, everything is on these. I've got this monitor that's screening the film, and there's these lines and dots that pass over the screen. They're called streamers and punches, and they're marked on your score. So you see, okay, there's going to be a streamer at bar 66 on beat 1. Here it comes. There it is. Bang. And you're trying to hit that streamer. It's like playing Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
But you're conducting an orchestra at the Royal Festival Hall. It's like shit. So you've just got to really bollock the orchestra, because orchestras love to play behind the baton, and you have to be like, guys, you've got to be right on me, and you've got to be watching me at all times. It's really, really challenging. It's a really challenging thing to do. But yeah, so it's kind of like once you've done that, everything seems really easy.
Yeah.
And then you get, so now I've conducted actual film scores, as in the actual, not just for the live thing, but stuff in the studio for things that are yet to come out. So I can't give you any more details, but
exclusive.
Yeah. Stuff that's coming out this calendar year. But anyhow, so that's been really cool, and I love it. I mean, the conducting thing, I just really enjoy it. And people keep asking me to do it, so I'll keep doing it. Simple as that. It's a kind of, it's just one of those things. I think it's kind of like arranging and orchestration is, I think, what I'm really good at. the conducting thing is what I enjoy the most, and then because it's just how is that not fun to just stand in the middle of an orchestra and just hear that sound, and then playing I like because I like being one of the cats. I don't like being above everyone and stuff like that, and arranging can be often really solitary. So the thing I like about playing is it's like you're in there, you're in a section, and and you're going to the pub afterwards and you're chatting and you're slagging off the conductor. Oh, that conductor's shit, and this arrangement's shit. It's good to like, I don't know. I never want to lose sight of that. A bit of advice I give you guys, because composers, outstanding composers on the composition course. But I know that I know you're a great drummer, right? You're a drummer.
I'm a drummer, yeah.
And Max, what do you play?
Well, I don't play anything great.
Okay.
But I play no input mixer. That's like my practice, I'd say now, which is very unconventional. But I enjoy it so much.
No, it's great. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, basically, my advice is don't stop playing. Keep that thing, because there's been times in my career where I've been so busy with arranging work, orchestration work, conducting work, that I've thought, damn, should I just give up the trumpet? Because I love all this other stuff I'm doing. And the trumpet's a pain in the ass. You've got to play like fucking 30 minutes of long notes every day, literally just not to get better, to not get worse.
Yeah.
Just to maintain yourself. You just have to it's like having to go to the gym every day or something. It's just a slog, and it's hard. And sometimes you practice and you think, oh God, I'm really getting on top of it. And then the next day you just go, God, this feels horrible. God, I thought I was getting on top of it. No. Whereas I feel like maybe with arranging and orchestration, there's more of an upwards kind of step-by-step trajectory. And I've just thought, maybe is it time? Am I at that point in my career where I need to make a decision? But I've kind of had that conversation with myself enough times to know now that no, I always want to play. I always want to be playing. It really informs my writing. It informs my conducting. Everything informs everything. When I'm conducting, I'm thinking, okay, what should I give coming out of this fermata? Should I give an upbeat? Should I give 3/4? Well, it's a new tempo. I'll give 3/4. Or it's a fast new tempo. I'll give a full bar or whatever. And what's making me make that decision is I'm going, what would I want? I'm a player. I've got to hit a high note on beat one. I've got to know exactly where that beat one's going to come. And some conductor might just go, just some weird ambiguous gesture, and the brass band's like, God, throw me a bone here, man. But I'm thinking from their perspective, what would I want? And same, when I'm conducting, I'm thinking from an arranger's perspective. Someone's just handed me a score, and thinking, okay, what's going on here? What needs to be in the foreground? What's to be in the middle ground? What needs to be in the background? What's the essence of what we're doing here? What's going on dynamically? Just homogenizing note lengths, homogenizing dynamics. So I'm thinking like an arranger, I'm thinking like a player, I'm thinking like a producer. You're thinking in all these ways. And same, when I'm playing, I'm not just looking at the dots that are on the page. I'm thinking, okay, what's my role in the wider machinery of what's going on here? Okay, I know I'm Mark Forte, but actually they've got the melody. I've just got a background figure. So this Forte, let's call it like Forte minus or something. And this is not quite, I'm just mark it MF and see if anyone knows. Everything informs everything. Arranging, okay, how would I conduct this? Is this easy to conduct? Is this easy to play? Wow, the French horns haven't had a rest for 32 bars. Damn, okay, that's bad. They'll not like me. They will not be buying me a pint later on. So, everything influences everything else. So I just encourage everyone to do everything. And maybe that's daunting for some people, but who just maybe want to specialize in a thing. And no, there's still room for that as well. But I don't know. I was always a jack of all and kind of was led to believe that was bad and you wouldn't get a career in music being like that. But I've been delighted to find out that that's not the case.
Amazing. I think we'll just finish talking about your last track. We ask everyone to submit one of their own tracks to the internal mixtape, and you've chosen a track by Boreal Sun, right?
Yeah.
Can you just explain sort of how that track came about, maybe, and also why you've chosen that track in particular?
Sure, yeah. So, Boreal Sun, a duo project with myself and an outstanding vocalist called Liselotte Östblom, who's Swedish but based in London. What I would say about the track is, and the thing that's been so fun about this track, it's been the first time I've played on so many albums, I've been involved in so many records, conducting, arranging, playing, but this was the first time I did a record basically under my own steam. Like, it's a duo project, make no mistake. Liselotte's had a lot of creative input into it, but in terms of like who booked the sessions, booked the musicians, this, that and the other, spoke to the person, the release strategy, got all that together, it was all me, and that was incredibly challenging, incredibly time consuming, but there was so much stuff that was so fun about it. And the thing that was, I think, the most fun about it was bringing together, you've got these incredible friends, I just happen to know like some of the best musicians in the world. I mean, I really mean that, not just in London, like in the world. So there's this percussionist friend of mine called Yahil, who's an outstanding djembe and talking drum player, very, very serious about West African music, a whole bunch of West African musical traditions. He's got an outstanding project of his own called Bali Maya Project. Highly recommend checking that out. So when I wrote this track, I knew I was going to get Yahil involved. There's another great percussionist on there called Pedro Segundo. He's one of my favorite drummers, percussionists in the world. He's Portuguese, but kind of based between London and New York, and I think New Orleans as well. He's working at an extremely high level. Who else is on this track? An unbelievable flute player called Gareth the Crane, and I'd never worked with Gareth. I was a fan of Gareth's, just whatever, but I just thought, I'd love to get him on a track. And I asked him, and he said, yeah. And if you listen at the very end of the track, there's some bird song. And this was some bird song that I recorded in Wanstead Park. And I transcribed it, like Messiaen did, like Marie Schneider's got a track with bird song on. Lots of composers have done that over the years. And I guess orchestrated it for piccolo and flute and got him to play them all, and then kind of like reassembled them. Cool. So that's a cool little thing. He was like really up for that. And then he takes this amazing solo. He's kind of improvising all the way through the tune, to be honest. And so is Yahil, the percussionist. And there's an outstanding drummer on this track called Josh Blackmore. Again, Josh is a friend, but we first met, I was a fan of his. He was in this incredible trio band called Troika. Him, an amazing guitarist, Chris anyhow, they had this amazing band called Troika. Oh my God, I'd love to put that on this mixtape. But he was brilliant. He was, again, the right call. He's got all that rhythmic metric madness down. He's all over it. I actually played keys on it, which, let me tell you, required some assistance from modern technology. But whatever, that was kind of fun. And then, and of course, Liselotte just sounds unbelievable on vocals. What was interesting was, so I'd basically written the entire instrumental, was complete by the time I brought Liselotte involved. And now when we write, I involve her much earlier in the process. But at this particular track, most of the first EP, all the instrumentals were written, and she came in along and we wrote the vocals together. But I remember with this one, it was during COVID, we'd gone away and listened, and it was like, let's both go away and listen to this instrumental and think about, just pick out some words like that we think the music is kind of evoking. And we just both independently went away, and then we came back and we had a meeting online, and we'd written down all the same words about like dawn and new beginning and this, that, and the other, and it was like, wow, this is crazy. It's amazing how music can just evoke a very specific, I don't know, other kind of almost like synesthesia that we can all access, anyhow. And so it's just a super fun track that was really fun to assemble. Compositionally, there's not loads going on really. I mean, it's just a melody that you get in, I think it's about 8 bars long, and then you get it in one key, and then you get it in another key, and that's the composition. I mean, there's a bit more to it than that, but it's just, I like that. I like the elegance of it, the simplicity of it.
Sick. Can we expect any other music?
You can, yeah. So we've written and half-tracked 3 tracks for another EP. We've got other tracks half-written.
Awesome.
I've just been so busy over the summer that I've not had any time to put into Boreal Sun, sadly. But I'm kind of out of it now, and I'm back to normal person busy.
Yeah.
Still insanely busy, but just not like so busy that I only respond to emails and text messages that say "you die now" in all caps and like skull emoji. And so I've just come out of that, and I'm just getting back into it now. So there'll be another EP. I've also got in my kind of back pocket a remix EP of the first EP.
Oh, sick.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of always imagined that I would do that, and 3 of them are drum and bass remixes. Nice. And then 2 of them, 2 of them are house music, remixes by 2 friends of mine. So that's another way of tapping into a different scene, than the scene of people that were.
And they're all produced by your friends, or are some of them produced by you?
3 of them are produced kind of by me and this other producer called Sam Gardner. Basically, what was cool about working with him was, so I basically was like, I can hear these 3 songs as like liquid drum and bass tunes. I know exactly the melodies, I know exactly what I want to do with it, but I have never produced drum and bass in my life. So I contacted my friend Sam Gardner, who has under this alias Scepter Beat, and I was like, look, I'll send you the MIDI and the vocal stems, because obviously the vocals are from the original EP, so other elements as well, and then you dial in the sounds. So it was almost like the roles were reversed to what I normally do, right? So normally I'm working with producers who have got the MIDI data, and then I go, okay, let's give this to the first, let's divisi the seconds, let's give this to the viola, and maybe let me just tweak that voice in and optimize that voice lead in or what have you. But it was like now that the roles were reversed. Now he was orchestrating my MIDI, and that was cool, Mm-hmm. I mean, we did it together. But my role was mainly just being in the background going, and just, should I do a run to the shop? Do you want some beers? That was kind of my role in that. Nice. Once we got to that point. So I guess I produced it, but really he did a lot of the legwork of the actual dialing in the sounds and the synths. But man, I got so much out of watching that process. That's kind of like, you know, we talked earlier about having all of us have holes in our musicianship, right? And for me, the next kind of vanguard of my learning is like synthesizers. There was some synths involved in the Boreal Sun stuff, dipping my toe in. That's going to be more of a part of the sound of the next EP for sure. And yeah, and then who knows what else I'll get into next. But, you know, it never ends. You know, this is the thing. Dominic actually knows loads about synths. So we're going to do a skill swap where I'm going to go over and he's going to teach me about, I don't know, additive, subtractive, granular synthesis and whatnot. And then he's going to come over to mine and I don't know what he wants to learn from me. Something about harmony, I think. But yeah, and yeah, it never ends, but isn't it beautiful? I wouldn't have it any other way.
Amazing. That's great. Thanks so much, Matt.
Pleasure, guys.
Yeah,
Love to you guys.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Eternal Mixtape. This podcast was produced by Jack Smith and Max West. You can listen to the full Eternal Mixtape with our guest selected tracks on Spotify and YouTube, linked in the description. You can find us on Instagram at eternal.mixtape. You can also find Matt on Instagram at MattRobertsTPT and his band Boreal Sun at Boreal Sun Music. Stay tuned to see who adds to the tape next. Bye!